The first bolt of lightning struck somewhere beyond the ridge. The second knocked out the power. The third killed Elena Marlowe's wheelchair. She knew it before the screen went black. The soft electric hum beneath her disappeared. The joystick went loose beneath her thumb. Every indicator light vanished at once. For half a second, Elena simply stared at the dead control panel while rain hammered the metal roof of the abandoned ranger station. Then she pressed the power button again. Nothing. Come on. Again, nothing. Outside, wind bent the pine trees until their upper branches seemed to touch the ground. Water rushed across the mountain road in brown sheets. Somewhere farther downhill, something large cracked. Tree, utility pole. Maybe both. Owen Hale crouched beside Elena's wheelchair and pulled a flashlight from his jacket. Don't touch the battery compartment yet. Elena looked down at him. I wasn't planning to. You were looking at it like you wanted to. I own a medical device company. And I repair electrical systems. I know what a battery enclosure is. Owen looked toward the roof as another flash illuminated the windows. Good. Then you know standing in a wet building during a lightning storm is an excellent time not to open one. Elena's jaw tightened. She hated when he was right. Especially when he sounded calm about it. The wheelchair remained completely dead. Her phone had 1 bar of signal. Then none. The access road back to the rehabilitation campus was 3 miles downhill. Under normal conditions, that was nothing. Tonight half the road was already flooding. A landslide warning had been issued 20 minutes earlier. And the one machine Elena depended on to move through the world had just become 280 pounds of expensive dead weight. Owen stood. Rainwater ran from his hair down the collar of his work jacket. We wait 10 minutes. For what? To see whether the lightning moves east. And then? I get you down the mountain. Elena looked at the road beyond the window. You're going to push this chair 3 miles through that? No. She looked at him. What then? Owen's face gave nothing away. We'll figure it out. Elena almost laughed. She had spent 18 months surrounded by specialists who used phrases like that when they had no answer. Doctors, engineers, consultants, board members, family. We'll figure it out. Usually it meant someone else was about to make a decision for her. But Owen Hale was different in one inconvenient way. He had spent the previous 2 months proving that when he said something, he usually meant exactly what the words said. Nothing more. Nothing less. Elena looked down at the dead wheelchair, then at the storm. What she did not know was that before sunrise, Owen would leave that chair behind. He would carry Elena Marlowe on his back for 3 miles through rain, mud, fallen branches, and a road that had partially disappeared into the mountain. And by the time they reached the bottom, the CEO who had spent 18 months refusing to owe anyone anything would be forced to confront the one thing she feared more than dependence. Trust. If you have ever known someone who would rather struggle alone than risk becoming a burden, tap like. And tell me below whether accepting help can sometimes require more courage than giving it. 8 weeks earlier, Owen Hale had never met Elena Marlowe. He knew the company. Everyone around Asheville did. Marlowe Mobility had started 22 years earlier with one product, a lightweight portable ramp designed by Elena's father, Thomas Marlowe, after an injury forced his brother to use a wheelchair. From there came hospital equipment, power chair components, transfer systems, rehabilitation robotics, accessible vehicle controls. By the time Elena took over as CEO at 32, the company employed nearly 3,000 people. Then came the accident. A delivery truck crossed the center line during heavy rain outside Charlotte. Elena survived. Her driver did not. Her spinal cord injury left her with limited sensation and movement below the waist. The first year afterward turned her into something she had never intended to become. Public evidence. Evidence that money did not prevent catastrophe. Evidence that advanced rehabilitation could produce progress. Evidence that wheelchair users could remain powerful executives. Evidence that Marlowe Mobility understood its own customers. Elena hated all of it. Not the wheelchair. Not exactly. The interpretation. Everything she did became meaningful to someone. If she used a new therapy device, investors called it confidence. If she did not use it, analysts asked whether development had stalled. If she missed an event, rumors started about her health. If she appeared, people praised resilience. Eventually, Elena became skilled at giving the world almost nothing. Short answers. Controlled schedules. Perfect posture. Minimal emotion. Her older brother Grant called it discipline. Her mother called it survival. Her board chairman called it reassuring. Elena called it Tuesday. Owen entered her life because a storm damaged the electrical systems at Marlowe Ridge, the company's private rehabilitation and product testing campus 40 minutes outside Asheville. He owned Hale Building Services, which sounded larger than it was. The company consisted of Owen, one aging service van, a small shop behind his rented house, and whichever subcontractors he could afford to hire for a given job. 6 years earlier, the company had included his wife Laura. Laura did the books. Owen did everything requiring a ladder. Their daughter Grace was 8 now. She had Laura's dark eyes, Owen's inability to remain quiet when something seemed unfair, and a habit of naming tools. The impact driver was Dennis. The large pipe wrench was Patricia. Owen had stopped asking why. Laura died when Grace was 4. A blood clot after surgery. Unexpected, fast. Owen had gone from husband to widower between breakfast and dinner. For a year afterward, he worked because stopping meant thinking. Then Grace began having nightmares. Not about Laura, about Owen. In the dreams, he left for work and never came home. That changed his schedule more effectively than any grief counselor could have. He stopped overnight contracts. Stopped taking projects more than an hour from home. Lost larger clients. Earned less. Came home. He considered it an acceptable trade. The Marlowe Ridge contract appeared through an old friend in commercial maintenance. 3 weeks. Electrical repairs. Water damage assessment. A few accessibility improvements around the older buildings. Good money. Local. Owen accepted. On his first morning, the campus manager walked him through the main lodge. Executive wing is restricted. Fine. Therapy labs require escort. Fine. Prototype areas require ENDA. Fine. Miss, Marlowe is here 3 days this week. Owen looked at him. Should that change something? The manager paused. No. Good. That was their first difference. Most contractors became nervous when Elena's name entered a conversation. Owen became more interested in a damaged breaker panel. He met her 20 minutes later. The main lodge had been built in the 1980s. At some point, someone installed an automatic entrance. At some later point, someone replaced the interior flooring. The new tile sat slightly higher. Elena's front casters struck the lip hard enough to jar her shoulders. Owen saw it from across the lobby. One of her assistants reached toward the back of the chair. Elena said, "Don't." The assistant stopped. Elena reversed, tried again. Crossed. Owen looked at the threshold. The campus manager kept talking. Owen stopped listening. He crouched. Elena noticed. "What are you doing?" "Looking at?" "This." He tapped the edge of the transition strip. The manager said, "That's not part of the storm damage." "No." Owen ran a finger along the metal. "It's worse." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Worse than storm damage?" "Storm damage is honest." The manager stared. Elena almost smiled. Owen continued. "This was installed wrong. It passed inspection," the manager said. "Probably." Elena looked at Owen. "You use that word a lot?" "When I wasn't there." She moved closer. "What's wrong with it? Too much rise over too little depth. It's under code maximum." "Maybe," the manager sighed. Owen looked at Elena's casters. "There are strike marks." Elena glanced down. Owen stood. "You hit this every time?" "Most times." "And nobody changed it?" "I stopped mentioning it." That answer bothered him. Not because he thought she should complain more, because he understood what it took for someone to stop reporting a problem. Usually they had reported it enough. Owen said, "I'll fix it." The manager immediately objected. "It's not on scope." Owen looked at him. "Add $12. Elena laughed. Real, short, unexpected. She looked almost irritated that he had caused it. Owen fixed the threshold that afternoon. He did not tell Elena. She discovered it the next morning, when her chair crossed without impact. She stopped. Reversed, crossed again. Owen was 20 feet away opening an electrical cabinet. Elena looked at him. He did not turn around. "You fixed it." "Yep, $12? $14.60. You overran budget." Tragic. That was how it began. Not romance, not fascination. Friction. Owen found problems. Elena asked why no one else had. An exterior push button installed where water pooled around the base. An emergency generator transfer panel positioned inside a closet too narrow for easy wheelchair approach. A guest cabin advertised as accessible even though the bathroom mirror became useless from seated height. A trail overlook with an accessible paved path that ended 12 feet before the best view because someone placed a decorative boulder in the turning area. Elena stared at that one. Who approved this? Probably somebody standing. She looked at Owen. "That is unfair." "Probably, you said it again." "I wasn't there." She laughed. By week 2, Owen was attending morning facilities walks with Elena. No one formally invited him. She simply began appearing where he worked. "What's broken today?" "Your optimism." That was never installed. Then we're ahead. Her staff noticed. So did Grant Marlowe. Grant was 41. Chief Strategy Officer. Elena's brother. Protective in the way older brothers often became when life gave them proof that terrible things could happen. Before the accident, Grant and Elena fought about business. After the accident, they fought about everything. Driver schedules, travel, security, therapy, nutrition, whether she should work from home, whether she should use a different chair for long events, whether Marlowe Ridge needed more medical staff whenever Elena stayed overnight. Grant believed he was helping. Elena believed he was turning her life into a risk management plan. Both were right. Grant met Owen near the service shed. "You're Hale." "Owen, you've been speaking with Elena." Owen looked at him. "Yes, about?" "Doors." Grant waited. Thresholds, more silence. "Generator access." Grant studied him. "You understand she is CEO." "I've gathered. You've been direct with her. Should I not be?" Grant exhaled. "She is under pressure." "So am I. I have 2 invoices overdue." Grant did not smile. "I'm serious." "So am I." Grant lowered his voice. "Elena does not need another person turning every inconvenience into a commentary about her disability." Owen's expression changed. "I don't. You filed 28 accessibility notes." 31. Grant stared. Owen continued. "They're building problems. Some exist only because she uses a wheelchair." "No," Owen pointed toward the lodge. "That threshold was bad before her accident." "For whom?" "Delivery carts. Strollers, anyone with a cane. Anyone carrying something heavy." He shrugged. "She just has less room to compensate for lazy design." Grant went quiet. That sentence reached Elena later. Not from Owen. From Grant. "You know what your contractor said?" "My contractor?" "Hale." Elena looked up. Grant repeated it. She said nothing. But she remembered. The load-bearing object appeared during week 3. A brass compass. Old, heavy, scratched. It sat on the windowsill of Elena's temporary office at Marlowe Ridge. Owen noticed it because it was in the way of a moisture meter. "Can I move this?" Elena looked. Her face changed. "Yes." He picked it up carefully. The glass had a hairline crack. Initials engraved underneath. T.M. "Your father?" Elena nodded. "He carried it hiking." Owen set it on the desk. "You hike?" "Used to." The answer came sharper than he expected. Owen looked at her. She immediately looked away. He understood too late. Not because hiking was impossible. Because everyone probably asked. Do you miss it? Will you do it again? Have you tried adaptive trails? Would you like recommendations? Owen did not ask. He finished checking the wall. Elena noticed the silence. My father built this campus because he loved the mountains. Owen looked back. She turned the compass beneath her fingers. He thought meetings improved outside. Did they? No, he smiled. At least he tried. He would take investors onto trails. That sounds illegal. He once made a banker hike 4 miles before agreeing to a loan. Did he get it? Yes, then maybe genius. Elena smiled. The compass had belonged to Thomas for 40 years. He gave it to Elena when she became CEO. Not ceremonially. No speech. He placed it on her desk and said, "You don't need this to know where north is. You need it to remember that knowing the direction doesn't make the terrain easier." Then he died 2 years later. Cancer. Before the accident. Elena carried the compass between headquarters and Marlowe Ridge. It did not work perfectly. The needle sometimes stuck. She never repaired it. Owen did not ask why. He had Laura's old pocket knife in his truck. The blade was loose. He could fix it in 10 minutes. He never had. Some objects carried damage like fingerprints. Changing them felt too close to erasing evidence. The child entered Elena's life in week 4. Grace's school closed unexpectedly because a water main broke. Owen called the campus manager. I need the day. We're commissioning the backup generator. I know. Can someone cover your daughter? No, pause. Bring her. Owen stared. This is a rehab testing campus. She stays in admin. Grace was already listening. Say yes. Owen covered the phone. You were not invited into this. I am the problem under discussion. That is unfortunately accurate. Grace came. She wore a yellow rain jacket despite no rain. Because weather apps lied. She carried a backpack, coloring pencils, 2 books, and Laura's old knitted scarf, because she said unfamiliar buildings were cold. Owen gave rules. No prototype rooms. Okay, no wandering. I don't wander. You got lost in Costco. I was finding samples. No personal questions. Define personal. No, Grace lasted 18 minutes in the administration lounge, then found Owen. Elena was with him near the main terrace inspecting a drain. Grace stopped. Owen saw. No, I didn't say anything. You were preparing. Elena looked amused. Preparing what? Grace smiled. Question, of course. Owen sighed. This is Grace. I know. Your father talks about you. Grace looked at Owen. You talk about me? Regrettably, Grace turned to Elena. Does your wheelchair work in rain? Owen closed his eyes. Elena looked at the chair. Some rain. Not big rain? No electronics enjoy big rain. Grace nodded. Dad says water goes everywhere it shouldn't. Owen muttered. Accurate. Grace pointed at the large rear tires. Can it go on? Yes, mud? Not well. Mountains? Depends, Grace considered. You need monster truck tires. Elena laughed. Owen shook his head. Please don't give product development advice. Why? You charge too much. I take snacks. Elena said, affordable. Grace became comfortable immediately. Children sometimes did that because status required context they had not yet learned. Elena was not CEO. Not wealthy. Not a wheelchair user. She was a woman with almonds in the side pouch. Grace discovered those too. Dad. Owen turned. Elena has honey almonds, you asked? No, she offered. Elena looked at him. Permission granted. Excellent governance. The child catalyst began quietly. Grace noticed the compass. Does it point north? Usually is bad for a compass. Owen smiled. Elena looked at the needle. It sticks. Fix it. Elena's hand stopped. Owen said, Grace, what? Not everything needs fixing. Grace looked confused. Broken things do. Owen looked at the compass. Then at Elena. No, his voice softened. Sometimes people keep things a certain way for a reason. Grace considered. That's weird. Frequently, Elena looked at Owen. He did not look back. Something inside her shifted. He understood, without requiring the explanation. The disguised recovery hint came 2 days later. Elena was testing a new standing support device in a private laboratory. Owen entered because a ceiling sensor fault required inspection. He immediately stopped. I'll come back. Elena was positioned in the frame. Harness supports. Hands on rails. Doctor. Mira Patel stood beside the controls. Elena said, finish. Owen looked toward Mira. Mira shrugged. Your ceiling. He opened the access panel, kept his attention overhead. Behind him, Mira said, ready? No. Good. The frame lifted. Elena's body rose. Feet loaded. Legs supported. Owen heard her breathing. Then Mira said, there. Elena's voice changed. Again? Right quad. A pause. Small. Elena said nothing. Owen kept working. The right quadriceps had activated. Not enough for standing independently. Not even close. But more than 2 months earlier. After therapy, Owen packed his ladder. Elena watched. You heard. Yes, you aren't going to say congratulations. No, why? He looked at her. Did you want me to? She thought, no, then good choice. Her eyes narrowed. Are you always this irritating? Only billable hours. She smiled. The mid-story threat started with money. Marlowe Ridge was expensive. The campus had been built by Elena's father as part retreat, part testing center, part executive vanity project. After Elena's accident, its purpose changed. She began using it for rehabilitation research, adaptive trail design, mobility testing, outdoor access systems. The board saw costs. Grant saw opportunity. A national rehabilitation network offered to buy a majority stake in the campus. They would operate it as a luxury recovery retreat. Marlowe Mobility would retain testing access. The price was excellent. Elena hated the plan. This isn't a spa. Grant sat across from her. It would remain clinical. For wealthy patients. For paying patients. Marlowe Ridge was built for research. It loses $8 million a year. It produces product data. It produces ideas. Grant sighed. You sound like Dad. Thank you. That wasn't praise. Elena looked at him. Grant softened. Marlowe needs capital. Arc Motion Robotics was over budget. 2 overseas contracts were delayed. Investors were asking questions. The campus sale would help. Elena knew this. That was the problem. She began looking for a reason to keep it beyond sentiment. Owen accidentally gave her one. He was reviewing storm damage logs from past years. Mountain weather caused repeated failures. Power outages. Washed out access roads. Drainage problems. Trail erosion. He said to the campus manager, you sell mobility equipment and test it where weather tries to destroy accessibility every 6 months. The manager frowned. That is not a positive statement. Could be. Elena, nearby, turned. How? Owen pointed toward the map. Real-world resilience. She waited. Most accessible design testing assumes the building works. Yes, what happens when it doesn't? Emergency systems. No. Owen shook his head. What happens when the elevator dies? Battery chair fails? Power door stops? Road floods? Ramp freezes? Elena looked at him. Owen continued. Accessible when everything works is easy. Something ignited in her face. What are you suggesting? Nothing, you are. No, I'm complaining. That is how you suggest things. She brought in engineers, emergency access experts, occupational therapists, facilities teams, disabled users. The concept became Ridge-ready. Mobility technology designed for failure conditions, storms, power loss, flooding, cold, infrastructure failure, portable manual backup systems, weatherproof controls, emergency evacuation equipment that respected autonomy instead of treating disabled people like cargo. Marlowe Ridge suddenly had a sharper purpose. Grant remained skeptical. Then the hospital system in western North Carolina expressed interest. Then, emergency management, then a veterans network. The campus sale paused. Not canceled. The board wanted proof. A 6-month pilot. If Ridge Ready produced commercial value, Marlowe kept control. If not, Grant's sale plan returned. The shared build began. Owen's 3-week contract became 4 months. He refused employment. My daughter likes me home. Elena respected that immediately. He accepted consulting work on infrastructure and failure testing. He rebuilt drainage routes, designed manual door overrides, worked with engineers on low-tech emergency systems. His business stabilized. He hired his former apprentice back, paid down the van repair, stopped checking his bank account before grocery shopping. Elena never called it help. She paid him for work. That distinction mattered to both of them. Their relationship changed. Lunch became normal. Arguments became easier. Silences, too. Elena learned Owen hated olives. Owen learned Elena drank coffee until noon and tea afterward. He learned she called Grant every Sunday even when they were fighting. She learned he listened to Laura's favorite radio station in the truck, but changed the channel if certain songs played. Neither pushed. One afternoon, Grace visited and found Elena studying a map of accessible trails. You still don't have monster tires. Elena sighed. Engineering rejected your proposal. Bad engineering. Owen said, do not radicalize the CEO. Grace pointed at an old trail leading from the campus to a ranger station. What's this? Old fire road. Can chairs go? Elena looked. Some sections. Grace frowned. That means no. Elena smiled. Currently, Grace looked at the compass on Elena's desk. Your dad walked it? Elena became quiet. Yes, did you? When I was younger. How far? 3 miles to the ranger station. Grace's eyes widened. That's not far. Owen looked at her. You complain walking from parking lots. That's different. How? Parking lots are boring. Elena laughed. The old fire road became part of Ridge Ready testing, not because Grace suggested it. At least that was what Elena claimed. The plan was to create an emergency access route, not fully paved. A stabilized surface. Drainage, rest points. Manual mobility devices, weather shelters. A real mountain test environment. Grant thought it was overkill. Elena thought that meant useful. The costly setback came before construction began. A severe storm struck Marlowe Ridge in early spring. Not the final storm. A warning. 2 drainage channels failed. Water entered 1 laboratory. Prototype equipment worth nearly $1 million was damaged. The board reacted immediately. Grant called. This proves the campus is wrong for critical testing. Elena stood, supported, in arc step when she took the call. Or proves the testing is necessary. $800,000. I saw the report. You cannot turn every failure into a reason to spend more. Elena's face hardened. You cannot turn every cost into proof Dad's work should be sold. Silence. Grant's voice lowered. There it is. What? Dad. Elena closed her eyes. This isn't about him. Part of it is. Part of everything is. That doesn't make it good governance. She ended the call. Therapy deteriorated afterward. Not physically at first. Emotionally, Elena pushed too hard. Longer sessions. More standing, less rest. Mira warned her. Elena ignored her. 3 days later, her right leg stopped responding as well. Temporary fatigue. Maybe inflammation. Maybe nothing. Elena heard failure. She canceled 2 sessions. Then 3. Owen noticed because she stopped appearing near the lab. He did not ask. That irritated her. Finally, she said, You're avoiding it. They stood near the terrace. Owen looked confused. Avoiding what? Therapy. I don't do therapy. You know what I mean. No, you know I stopped. I noticed. And? And nothing. Elena stared. You don't think I'm quitting. I don't know. You don't think I'm scared. You probably are. Her jaw tightened. You don't think I should go back. Owen looked at her. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Then I'm not filling in the blank. Silence. Elena looked away. My leg stopped responding. Completely? No then? Less, Owen nodded. She waited. He said, that sounds frustrating. That's all? Want more? No, her eyes filled unexpectedly. She hated that. Owen looked at the mountains. Let her recover privacy. After a minute, Elena said, everyone keeps saying progress isn't linear. Sounds annoying. It is. Then I won't. She laughed through tears. The confession came later that evening. My father died 6 months before the accident. Owen knew. He listened. He never saw the chair. Owen said nothing. I don't know if that's good or bad. The compass sat on the table between them. He would have tried to fix everything. Like Grace. Elena smiled faintly. Yes, then the smile disappeared. Grant became him. Owen understood, trying to solve. Yes, my mother too. She touched the compass. Everyone became so afraid of losing me that they stopped letting me risk anything. Silence. Then I became afraid too. Owen leaned back. Of what? Elena looked at him. Needing them. The answer was flat. Honest. If I let Grant manage one thing, he manages 5. If I let my mother come to therapy, she asks the doctor questions for me. If I ask an assistant to help with a transfer once, they hover for the rest of the day. Owen listened. So I don't ask. He looked at her. Even when you need it. Yes, that sounds exhausting. It is. Effective? She almost laughed. Sometimes Owen looked at the compass. Laura used to say I'd rather bleed than ask someone to hold the ladder. Elena smiled. She was right? Usually, what changed? Grace. He looked toward the window. After Laura died, people brought food. I hated it. Why? Because it meant they knew I couldn't do everything. Elena understood. Then one night Grace asked why I kept sending everyone away. He swallowed. She said, do you not like people anymore? Elena's eyes softened. Owen continued. She was 4. That was when I realized my pride was teaching her what love looked like. Silence. I still hate asking. So do I. Yeah, he looked at her. Doesn't mean we're good at being right. The next week, Elena returned to therapy. No announcement. No promise. Ridge Rady continued. Then came the storm that changed everything. It arrived faster than forecast. A warm front collided with mountain air. By noon, heavy rain warnings covered the region. By 2, the campus suspended outdoor testing. By 3, staff began leaving. Elena should have left too. Grant called 3 times. You need to come down. I have one meeting. Cancel. No, Elena. The main road is open. For now. I have security. Owen heard part of the call. He was outside the engineering lab securing loose equipment. He said nothing. At 4:15, Elena finished. Rain had intensified. Her driver brought the accessible van around. Then a landslide blocked the lower access road. Not fully. 1 lane. Campus operations redirected vehicles toward the Old North Road. Elena refused. Too narrow. Her driver said, it's passable. Owen came through the lobby soaked. No, everyone looked at him. He pointed at the weather map. North Drainage Channel crosses the road at mile 2. If this rain continues, it'll overtop. Grant was on speakerphone. Who is that? Elena said. Owen. Grant's voice sharpened. Then listen to him. Elena stared at the phone. Owen almost smiled. They waited. Bad decision. 40 minutes later, the main road became completely blocked. The North Road flooded. The campus lost grid power. Backup generators started. Staff moved to emergency shelter protocols. Elena remained. So did Owen because one generator had failed automatic transfer. He refused to leave before stabilizing it. Grace was with Owen's sister. Safe, that mattered. At 6:30, the storm shifted east. Campus operations reported emergency crews could not reach them until roads cleared. No immediate danger. Shelter overnight. Elena hated that. Then a call came from a small ranger station 3 miles up the old fire road. 2 engineers had been doing environmental testing there before the storm. One had injured an ankle during evacuation. Radio weak. No vehicle access. Campus emergency staff prepared a small team. Elena told Owen, "You're not going." He looked at her. "Why?" "Your facilities. I built half the route. You are not rescue personnel." "No, then stay." Owen smiled slightly. "That sounds familiar." Her eyes narrowed. "What?" "People deciding what you can do because they're worried." She stared. He added, "I'm going with trained staff." Fair. Elena hated fair. Then the emergency team discovered the campus's utility ATV had flooded ignition. The rescue response slowed. Elena became furious. Ridge Ready, a program built around failure. Failing in the first real storm. She joined the emergency coordination team in the old Ranger Annex at the edge of campus because the main communications room had water intrusion. That was how she ended up near the fire road. Owen was there. 2 emergency staff. Rain. Wind. Then the second generator failed. Lights went out. Emergency battery lights came on. Lightning struck close enough to shake the building. Elena's wheelchair screen flickered, returned, then flickered again. Owen saw. "Move away from the exterior wall." "I know. Another strike." Power surge. The chair shut down. Dead. That was the beginning. For 20 minutes they tried safe resets. Nothing. Elena carried a manual release tool. The motors disengaged. The chair could be pushed. But the fire road was already turning to mud. Then radio contact returned. The injured engineer had worsened. Possible fracture. One emergency staff member left with a manual stretcher team coming from another shelter. Owen stayed with Elena. They expected the campus crew to return for her. Then the road behind them washed out. Not completely, enough that the heavy chair could not cross. The remaining staff member radioed, "We can carry her with the evacuation chair." Elena's face hardened. "No." Owen looked at her. The staff member said, "Miss Marlowe, no, the evacuation chair was designed for stairs. Narrow. Straps. 4-person carry. Terrible over mud." Owen understood why she refused. Not pride alone. Unsafe. A second landslide warning sounded. They had to leave the annex. Campus shelter was 3 miles downhill by the old fire road. The manual wheelchair stored at the annex had narrow front casters. Useless in mud. Elena's power chair was too heavy. Owen opened the equipment cabinet. Emergency harnesses. Rope. Trail gear. One old framed evacuation backpack prototype from a Ridge Ready test. He stared. Elena saw. "No," he looked at her. "No what?" "You are thinking something." "Unfortunately no, you don't know what." "Yes I do." He pulled out the evacuation harness. Elena stared. It was designed to secure a mobility-impaired person to a rescuer's back during terrain evacuation, when wheeled movement became impossible. A prototype. Never commercially approved. Owen had helped reinforce its frame 2 weeks earlier. Elena laughed once. "No, okay," he put it down. She blinked. "That easy?" Another crack of thunder. Owen looked at the road. "We have 3 options. I am listening, wait here. Landslide zone. Yes, bad, push your chair. Impossible. Probably." She glared. "Third," he nodded toward the harness. "You tell me." Elena's face closed. Owen did not touch it, did not persuade, did not say trust me. He simply waited. That was worse. Because the choice stayed hers. Rain intensified. The radio operator said, "We need to move within 10 minutes. Elena looked at the harness. Then Owen. "You cannot carry me 3 miles. Maybe. I weigh 130 pounds. More with gear. That is not helpful." "No, you'll injure yourself." "Possible. This road is steep." "Yes, mud. Yes, branches. Yes, you keep agreeing. I'm not selling it." Elena looked away. Her hands tightened. The real terror was not the carry. It was surrendering movement completely. No joystick, no wheels, no control over pace, dependent on another person's legs. Another person's balance. Another person's decision not to drop her. She hated how much fear lived inside that thought. Owen saw enough. He said quietly, "We can wait." She looked at him. "And risk the slope." "Yes, you think we should? I think you should choose." Silence. The compass sat in the pouch beneath her chair. Elena reached for it, held it. North, terrain. Knowing the direction did not make it easier. Her father's words. She looked at Owen. "Explain the harness." He did. Every strap, every buckle, emergency release, frame, weight distribution, rest intervals. How he would lower her. How she could tell him to stop. Where her arms would go. Nothing hidden, no heroism. Procedure. Elena listened. Then said, "Do it." Owen did not move immediately. "You sure?" "Yes. Only then." He positioned the frame. Locked the chair motors. Helped Elena transfer only where she directed. One hand at her shoulder, one under her thigh after permission. No lifting until the harness was secured. The evacuation staff member checked straps. Elena's heart hammered. Owen crouched. "Ready?" "No." "Okay," she almost laughed. Then placed her arms around the upper support. "Go." Owen stood. The weight hit. He staggered half a step. Elena immediately said, "Put me down." "No." "You stumbled." "I adjusted. That is not reassuring. Neither is your management style." She laughed despite herself. That broke the first panic. They moved. The first quarter mile was the hardest. Not because of distance. Because both were learning. Owen's steps shortened. Elena learned how her weight moved with him. The harness spread pressure across his hips and shoulders. Still brutal. Rain ran down both of them. The trail surface had become loose mud. Twice Owen slipped, never fell. The emergency staff member stayed close. Elena said, "Stop." Owen stopped immediately. No questions. She breathed. "What?" "My left strap." "Pressure?" "Yes." He knelt carefully. "Adjusted better?" "Yes." "Continue?" She waited. "Yes." They moved. The road descended through pines. Branches covered sections. Water cut channels through gravel. At half a mile, Owen's breathing became heavy. Elena heard. "You're tired." Observant. "Stop. You need rest?" "You do." He smiled. "Fair." They stopped beneath an overhang where exposed rock provided partial shelter. Owen lowered her onto an emergency ground pad. His legs shook. Elena saw. "You can't do this." He drank water. "Already doing it." "You have 2.5 miles." "I know. You could hurt your back." "Yes. Then what?" "Then you get to say I told you." "Owen." He looked at her. Elena's fear came out as anger. "You have grace." His face changed. "There, the real issue." She continued. "You don't get to destroy yourself carrying me because you want to prove something." He stared. Then said, "I am not proving anything. You are carrying a CEO through a mountain storm. I'm carrying Elena." The words landed. No title, no chair, no symbol. "Elena," he drank again. "And I'm doing it because we both decided this was the least bad option." Silence. "If that changes, we stop." Elena looked away. Rain moved through the trees like smoke. She held the compass. The needle stuck slightly. Owen noticed. "Still broken?" "Yes." "Want me to fix it?" "No." "Okay." She looked at him. "Why don't you ever argue about that?" "About what?" "Things I keep broken." He thought about Laura's pocket knife. "Because I have one." "What?" He pulled it from his jacket. Old wooden handle. Loose blade. "Elise?" "Laura, your wife." "Yes." Elena touched the compass. "Why keep it broken?" Owen smiled faintly. "Because she complained about the loose blade for 6 months." "That makes no sense." "I know. You could fix it." "Yes, but then?" "It becomes my knife." Elena understood. Now it's still hers. Something like that. Rain softened for 1 minute, then increased. Owen stood. "Ready?" Elena looked at him. "Yes." 1 mile, then 1.5. Owen's legs burned. His shoulders screamed. Elena stopped asking whether he was tired. Instead, she watched the road. Left side. "I see. Route. Yep. Water channel." "I know." She became navigation. Not cargo. They became a team. The compass did not work reliably. Elena did. She remembered the road from childhood hikes. There's a switchback ahead. Useful, then a flat section. Beautiful sentence. She almost smiled. At 1.8 miles, they found a fallen pine across the road. Too high to step over carrying her. Too low to pass beneath. The emergency staff member began clearing small branches. Owen lowered Elena. They assessed. Could go around downhill. Bad slope. Could climb uphill through brush. Longer, Elena looked. Uphill, Owen nodded. Agreed, the staff member said. Downhill is shorter. Elena pointed. Ground is saturated. That side will slide. Owen looked. She was right. They climbed. Owen carrying. Staff member clearing. Elena calling branches before they struck him. At the top, Owen nearly fell. His boot slid. One knee hit mud. Elena's hands locked around the harness. Owen, I'm okay. No, he stayed down. She could feel his breathing. Fast, painful, put me down. He did. Immediately, no pride. That mattered. Owen sat against a tree. His hands shook. Elena stared. We wait. 5 minutes. 10, 6, this is not negotiation. Everything is negotiation. She almost laughed. Then she saw blood. His palm. A cut from bark, your hand. Small, show me. He did. She pulled a medical wipe from the chair emergency kit they had carried. Cleaned it. Owen watched. Elena wrapped the cut. Her hands were steady. Grace would be furious. Why? You didn't wear gloves. He smiled. She would. Silence, then Elena said quietly, I'm sorry. For? This. Owen looked at her. What did you do? My chair failed. Not your fault. I chose this route. We both did. I kept the campus open. What does that have to do with tonight? Everything. Owen shook his head. No, she looked at him. Stop turning every bad event into evidence against yourself. The sentence cut deeper than he intended. Elena went still. Owen continued. Storm happened. Chair failed. Road washed. You didn't manufacture the weather. She looked away. He softened. You don't owe the mountain an apology. For a second, Elena looked like she might cry. She did not. Yet, they resumed. 2 miles. Then 2.4. The storm began moving east. Rain became steadier instead of violent. At 2.6 miles, they heard a generator. Campus, still distant. Elena's throat tightened. Owen's steps slowed. You okay? Define, still sarcastic? Yes, then functional. She smiled. At 2.8 miles, emergency lights appeared through trees. People, Grant, 2 staff. A medic. Elena saw her brother running uphill. Something inside her broke. Grant reached them. His face went white. What happened? Owen stopped. Grant stared at the harness. At Elena. At Owen. You carried her? Most of it. Grant moved immediately. Give her to me. Elena said no. Grant stopped. She looked at Owen. Finish, her brother stared. Not because he was excluded, because he understood. This mattered. Owen took the last 0.2 of a mile. 3 miles. Exactly. When they reached shelter, he lowered Elena onto a padded bench. His legs nearly collapsed. A medic grabbed him. I'm fine. Elena looked at him. He laughed weakly. Okay, maybe not. Grant knelt beside his sister. You hurt? No, pressure? Fine, any fall? No, why didn't you wait? Elena looked at him. Because we chose. She almost said it. Instead, the slope was becoming unsafe. Grant looked at Owen, then at Elena. His eyes filled with a mixture of fear and anger. I know. She touched his arm. I'm here. That shut him down. Owen sat 10 feet away while the medic checked his back, knees, hands. Grace called through Owen's sister's phone. Dad? He smiled. Hey, are you okay? Yes, Elena heard. His voice. Different, soft, Grace continued. Aunt May says you carried somebody down a mountain. Owen looked at Elena. That sounds dramatic. It is dramatic. Who? Owen hesitated. Elena said loudly. Me, Grace gasped. Elena? Yes, your monster tires failed? Elena laughed so hard the medic looked up. No monster tires. I told you. Owen closed his eyes. Please do not use this emergency to validate product suggestions. Grace ignored him. Did Dad drop you? Elena looked at Owen. No, good then, Dad, you wore gloves? Owen looked at his bandaged hand. Elena smiled. No, Grace became furious. I knew it. Everyone around them laughed. Even Grant. That laughter mattered. Not because the danger ended. Because fear loosened enough to let normal people back into the room. The storm cleared by morning. Road crews reached campus at 6. Elena's wheelchair was recovered by 10. Engineers found surge damage in the power management system. A design weakness. Rare, real, embarrassing, Marlowe Mobility manufactured parts of the chair's control architecture. Elena could have buried it. She did the opposite. Full investigation. Public service advisory. Emergency manual mobility review. Ridge Reedy's purpose became undeniable overnight. The campus sale disappeared from the agenda. Not because Elena emotionally won, because the company suddenly had real-world data nobody could buy. The storm exposed failures. Chair electronics. Emergency evacuation equipment. Road design. Communication gaps. Manual backup limitations. All of it became product development. Grant looked at the reports and admitted the obvious. You were right about Ridge Reedy. Elena shook her head. No, he frowned. The storm was right. Quiet, no gloating. The board approved a 5-year program. Ridge Reedy became a formal division. Owen's emergency carry made the news anyway. Someone leaked a photo of him reaching the campus shelter with Elena secured to his back. The headline called him a hero. He hated it. Elena hated it more. At the press briefing, a reporter asked, Ms. Marlowe, do you believe Mr. Hale saved your life? Elena looked at Owen standing off stage. He immediately looked uncomfortable. She turned back. No. The reporter blinked. Elena continued. We made an evacuation decision together. She spoke clearly. He carried me because the environment left no safe wheeled option. Another reporter asked. Isn't that saving you? Elena's jaw tightened. He helped me. Pause, there is a difference. The room quieted. Owen did something physically extraordinary. She looked toward him. He also did something less visible. What? He kept asking. The reporter frowned. Elena continued. He explained every option. He asked permission before every transfer. He stopped when I asked. He treated me as part of the evacuation instead of as the object being evacuated. That quote spread farther than the photograph. Emergency access groups cited it. Hospitals called. Disability advocates praised the framing. Owen still hated attention. Grace enjoyed telling classmates her father carried a CEO through a hurricane. It was not a hurricane. Storm, better, mountain hurricane. No. Elena returned to therapy 3 weeks later. Not immediately. Her body needed rest. So did Owen's. He strained muscles in his lower back and shoulder. No permanent damage, but enough that Elena felt guilt. She called him. How's your back? Old. That is not diagnosis. Doctor says strain. Need anything? No, she waited. Then smiled. You're doing it. What? Refusing help. Owen sighed. Probably. What would help? He looked around his shop. Invoices, unfinished shelving. Grace's school pickup in 2 hours. Someone could bring the Ridge-ready drawings here instead of making me drive. Done wait, you asked. He laughed. Fair. That was the beginning of balance. Not Elena learning to accept help. Both, Owen began allowing her to help in ways that were hers to give. Business introductions. Not handouts. Paid contracts. Flexible meetings. She allowed him to help physically when needed without making every act a debt. Reciprocity. The compass changed after the storm. Mud had entered the casing. The needle stopped completely. Elena stared at it for 3 days. Then brought it to Owen. He looked. What happened? Water. Probably fixable. I know. He waited. She placed it on his workbench. Fix it. Owen looked at her. You sure? Yes. What changed? Elena touched the cracked glass. My father used it to find direction. She smiled faintly, not to preserve the moment he stopped using it. Owen understood. He repaired the compass, cleaned the movement, preserved the scratches, replaced only the seal. The needle swung, settled north. Elena cried when he handed it back, not because it looked new. It didn't, because it worked while remaining her father's. That frightened her less than it once had. Owen looked at Laura's pocket knife later that night. Loose blade, worn handle. He put it on the bench. Grace appeared. What are you doing? Fixing something. She stared. Mom's knife? Yes, why now? Owen smiled. Apparently broken and remembered are not the same thing. Grace considered. That sounds like Elena. It does. She's smart. Dangerously, the knife tightened. Still Laura's. Also usable. The romance landed months after the storm, not in the rain, not after rescue. At a school fundraiser. Grace had a booth selling handmade birdhouses. Owen built them. Grace took full credit. Elena arrived wearing ordinary clothes and no corporate entourage. Grant drove separately, because he had finally learned sometimes security could wait in the parking lot. Grace saw Elena. You came. I said I would. Grace looked at Owen. See? Owen smiled. They spent 2 hours at the fair. Elena bought a terrible painted birdhouse because Grace told her the uneven one had character. At sunset, Grace ran off with friends. Owen and Elena remained near the edge of the field. You never answered me, Elena said. About? Why you carried me? Owen laughed softly. We covered this. No, the road was gone. That's the operational answer. He looked at her. Elena waited. Owen took a breath. Because you asked. Her face changed. Not because it was romantic. Because it was exactly consistent. First threshold, therapy, storm, everything you asked. He answered. Elena said, and if I had said wait, I'd have waited until it became unsafe enough to revisit. Not override me? No. What if I chose badly? Then we deal with it. She looked at him. You make that sound easy. It isn't. Then why say it that way? Because complicated doesn't mean unclear. Silence. Grace's laughter carried across the field. Elena looked toward her, then back. I like you. Owen smiled. I know, she stared. That is an unacceptable response. He laughed. I like you too. Better, you are still my client. Ridge Rady reports through engineering now. True, you are an independent contractor. Also true. I had legal review conflict policies. He stared. You had legal review dating me? No, you absolutely did. I review risk. You are terrifying. Elena smiled. Dinner? He looked at her. Ask properly. She laughed. Owen Hale, would you have dinner with me? Yes, the first date happened at a diner because Owen refused anywhere with a wine list longer than the menu. Elena liked it. The second date was better. The third included Grace. Grant found out before Elena told him. He called. Hale? Yes, the contractor. His name is Owen. You're dating. Yes, silence. Elena waited for concern. Logistics, risk, dependency. Instead, Grant said, Good. She blinked. What? I said good. That's all? I am learning. Elena smiled. Slowly runs in family. A year after the storm, Ridge Ready opened a new emergency mobility test center at Marlowe Ridge. The old fire road remained, but changed. Stabilized surface. Drainage, shelters, manual mobility equipment every half mile. Emergency transfer devices designed with user control built into every procedure. The evacuation harness Owen used became the ancestor of a commercial system. Lighter, safer, modular, not designed around carrying people without input. Designed around consent and choice. The first manual included a line Elena insisted on, in AN emergency. Loss of mobility does not equal loss of authority. Grant called it too philosophical. Elena kept it. Owen said it sounded like her. That was why it stayed. Her rehabilitation progressed. Slowly, she regained stronger leg activation. Supported standing improved. Eventually, a few steps using braces and parallel bars. No miracle. Wheelchair remained primary. Elena stopped treating that as a verdict. One afternoon, she took 6 supported steps. Mira recorded the data. Elena told Owen later while they loaded Grace's science project into the truck. 6. He looked up. Steps? Yes, good, she narrowed her eyes. That's still your answer? You want a parade? Maybe, Grace emerged. What happened? Elena took 6 steps. Grace nodded. Cool, then pointed at the truck. Dad put my volcano sideways. Owen looked. Oh, Grace screamed. My project. Elena laughed until she cried. That was better than applause. The public saw the storm as the turning point. It wasn't. Public stories needed obvious moments. 3 miles. Rain. A man carrying a woman through mud. Perfect image. Easy meaning. The real turning point came later. When Elena called Owen because she needed drawings brought to his shop and allowed herself to ask. When Owen admitted his back hurt and allowed her to arrange it. When Grant asked before moving her chair at Thanksgiving. When Grace stopped asking about monster tires because Ridge Ready engineers actually built an all-terrain testing set and named the prototype Grace 1. When the compass started working again. When Laura's knife did too. When help stopped meaning debt. 2 years after the storm, Owen proposed at Marlowe Ridge. Not on the fire road. Elena would have killed him. He chose the old terrace where he first fixed the threshold. Grace knew. Mira knew. Grant knew. Everyone except Elena knew. Owen stood beside the corrected doorway. Elena noticed immediately. You're acting strange. No, you are. Could be electrical. You're terrible. Grace appeared behind a window making frantic gestures at him. Elena saw. What is she doing? Nothing, she is waving. Kids, Owen, he laughed. Then took out the ring. Elena went still. I had a speech. That is concerning. Grace edited it. More concerning. He smiled. Then became serious. I thought strength meant being the person who carried everything. Elena's eyes filled. I was wrong. He looked at her. You taught me that, she swallowed. You taught me something too. What? That being carried doesn't mean being powerless. Silence. Rain had begun lightly. Not storm. Just weather. Owen knelt. Not because Elena needed symbolism. Because his knees still worked and he wanted to. Elena Marlowe, will you marry me? She looked at him. Then at Grace pressed against the glass. Then the mountains. Then the compass hanging from a small loop inside her chair pouch. Needle-free. Working. North, yes, Grace burst through the door before Owen could stand. I knew it. Elena laughed. You literally knew it. Exactly. The wedding took place at Marlowe Ridge. Grant tried to control logistics. Elena threatened to revoke sibling privileges. He asked instead. Progress, she used her wheelchair down the aisle. No attempt to recreate some symbolic walk. At the reception, she stood with support for one dance. Because she wanted to. Halfway through, she became tired. Sat, Owen continued dancing beside the chair like an idiot. Grace filmed him. The video became family blackmail. Years later, the brass compass sat in Elena's office beside one photograph, not the storm image. She hated that one. The photograph showed Owen, Elena, and Grace on the accessible overlook above Marlowe Ridge. Owen held nothing. Elena sat in her chair. Grace pointed dramatically toward the mountains for no understandable reason. The compass worked. The knife worked. The threshold worked. The road worked. That became the family joke. Owen fixed things. Elena tested whether they actually worked. Grace broke enough things to guarantee job security. The story people told remained simple. A CEO's wheelchair died in a mountain storm. A single father carried her 3 miles. It was true, but incomplete. He did not carry her because she was helpless. He carried her because wheels had stopped being the safest option. She did not become his because he rescued her. She chose him because long before the storm, he had already learned the thing most people around her struggled to understand. Help did not erase authority. Care did not require control. Dependence did not cancel dignity. And love was not one strong person carrying another forever. Sometimes Owen carried Elena. Sometimes Elena carried the financial risk that let Owen's business grow. Sometimes Grace carried both adults through grief with one terrible joke. Sometimes Grant carried responsibility after finally learning not to grab it without asking. The weight moved. That was family. Years after the storm, Elena and Owen walked, she rolled, along the old fire road with Grace, now 16. They reached the ranger station. 3 miles, bright autumn, dry road. No danger. Grace looked at her father. "This is where you carried her?" "Started around here." 3 miles? "Approximately," Elena looked at him. "Exactly," Owen laughed. "You were tracking distance?" "I am an engineer." Grace stared at Owen. "That is insane." "Thank you." "No, genuinely, I was there." "You could have died," Elena said. "I told him." Grace looked at her. "And you still married him?" "Questionable judgment." Owen shook his head. They sat near the ranger station. Grace wandered toward the overlook. Elena took out the compass. The needle moved. Settled, north. Owen looked at it. "Still good?" "Yes. Want me to check the seal?" "No," he smiled. "Fair." Elena turned the compass over. Her father's initials. T. M. Once, she thought the object mattered because it connected her to a man she had lost. Now it meant something else too. Direction, not certainty. Her father had been right. Knowing north never made terrain easier. It simply stopped you from confusing difficulty with being lost. Elena looked down the road Owen once carried her. 3 miles. At the time, she thought the hardest part was allowing someone else to hold her weight. It wasn't. The hardest part was believing she could still be fully herself while he did. She looked at Owen. "Do you regret it? The storm? Carrying me?" He thought dramatically. "My left knee occasionally complains." "Owen," he smiled. "No, not once?" Once, her eyebrows rose. "When?" "About mile 2. Elena laughed. "What did you think?" "That you talk too much during emergencies." "I was navigating. You were criticizing foot placement. You nearly fell." "I did not." "You put a knee in the mud. That was tactical." Grace shouted from the overlook. "You two argue like old people." They both looked. Owen called back. "We are old people." "You're 45. "Exactly." Elena laughed. Real, uncontrolled, nothing public. Nothing inspirational. Just life. And when they finally started back down the mountain, Owen walked beside Elena instead of behind her. He did not touch the chair. He did not need to. The road was dry. The battery was full. And if either of them needed help before they reached the bottom, they knew something now that neither had understood when they first met. They could ask.